Hello. So now I'm going to talk about GC Koushien 2023 and beyond. So for the last week or so, I have completed my coverage of the game entries of GC Koushien 2023. So I have completed the feedback document, and some of my contents do come from there, and I actually have to make adjustments so that what I'm going to say is consistent with what I'm in the document. So I'm going to put the link in chat. So okay, let's pin this. Yep, done. So before that, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Murazrai Krifria, a VTuber from Malaysia who primarily streams Japanese freeware games, and I have started streaming since 1st January of 2021. So I was participating in GC Koushien 2021 and 2022. I call it streamers contest, but the actual name of the thing is called Top of PB Awards. So for those 2 years, I have done more than 200 games, and for this year I also have done 200 games. So let's move. So as a brief overview of what GC Koushien 2023 is, so it's a Japanese student game dev competition, but despite that, there are multiple categories available: concept art, illustration, music, proposal, and freestyle. These are the ones that I can remember. I think there are more. And of course, it isn't just the organizer who gives out awards. There's also awards from corporate sponsors as well, and the games are open for download and /or let's play or commentary, as the Japanese call it, on an opt-in basis. So as for the event, there are 3 things that I think needs to be given attention. So one is game time categorization, 2, the need to revive Top of PB Awards, and the third is to make videos publicly accessible on YouTube. On that regard, as what I have seen for GC Koushien 2024, this is actually the case. So let's get back to the game time categorization. So the issue here is the games that there are 4 separate categories for games below 20 minutes, less than 5 minutes, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and 15 to 20. So the games between 5 to 20 minutes are largely the same. And there's also a problem with games with more than 40 minutes gameplay time having, how should I put it, it's possible to clear. There are some games in that category which can be cleared in exactly 40 minutes, but there are some games in that category that would take like more than 2 hours. So there's a huge disparity in game time in that category, so I would suggest to recategorize that into what's shown on screen. That's less than 5 minutes, followed by 5 to 50 minutes, then 15 to 30 minutes, 30 to 60 minutes, 60 to 120 minutes, and finally more than 120 minutes. I have given this particular feedback last year, but well, I guess it has fallen to deaf ears for reasons unknown. But I don't think they will actually, listen to me. And then, yeah, as for reviving the Top of PB awards, I can sort of understand why they don't do it for 2023, because, well, for 2022 there's only like 3 person entering, one which is me, which I am ineligible because I am not a Japanese citizen. It's understandable, but the thing is, the price that they give, well, is an Amazon gift card of 10,000 yen, which actually, well, I can make there are a lot of people who hold Amazon Japan accounts despite not living there. So I can make one account, and in fact there are guides out there on how to make one, so it's not like I can't get one if I actually win. And what's even worse, the winner of that award on 2022 is mostly a YouTuber who does other games, and it was only one game, which is a re-entry from 2021 at that. So it became a popularity contest rather than, a measure of how much effort being put into bringing these games out to the public. And then the third is Akane Aomo, which I actually subscribed to her channel because of her coverage of GC Koushien 2022. And she's also a musician who does do some composition works. At least she's sincere in her effort compared to the winner. And in 2023, it has been, I really can't comment much because I know there's an alternative competition or something, but I can't really tell much. In fact, I didn't include this part in the document that I pinned in the chat, because since I don't know much, I don't think it's appropriate me to comment on that. But I do hope that it will be revived for 2024 to encourage more people to cover the games instead of, mostly just me. And as far as I know, you don't really see, as far as I know, I was the only person who made commentary live streams of the game entries in GC Koushien 2023, but I could be wrong. If someone can find them out, please let me know. So another problem is back in 2023 the videos of the game entries, and not just game entries either, but entries for other categories, are unlisted, and the only way you can access them is to visit the Minano Game Parade website, which is understandable because Minano Game Parade is pretty much the gateway to the entries entering GC Koushien, but making them unlisted would limit exposure, which I guess they realize since they have reverted back to being available on the a separate GC Koushien channel, because the official channel for that competition is actually called Game Creators Guild, which does cover other topics. So, and in fact, incorporating the videos from the entries would overwhelm the channel. So it does make sense to separate them, and I'm definitely glad that this change has happened as of this year. So anyways, now let's move on to the next part. So my overall observations are as follows. So first, average quality of games is good, but lack of pinnacles. Yeah, Korodama Monogatari and Lumino La Ruta Natural back in 2021 are so good that few the game entries that came later couldn't live up to that standard. They pretty much have become tough acts to follow, though Blockwork AI, Great Robot, and what is the title of that last one? I need to double check. I think I have localized the title as something else. Let me see first. Okay, please wait for a bit. Yeah, the Mysterious Toy and Puzzle World. These three games are pretty much came close to those two games that I mentioned earlier, and I'm definitely looking forward to see if 2024 will be the year where those two games will be dethroned as the best games out of GC Koushien, and compared to year 2022, the developers definitely more aware of my presence, and I attribute it to this partially because I have met some of them when I was traveling to Japan to attend Tokyo Game Show 2023, where I was in the Game Academy area, where a lot of those game entries are actually being shown in those booths. And as with other games, as with other years, some games are more foreigner friendly than others. This is to be expected, and compared to 2021, the game quality for those games has a more balanced approach where it's not just gameplay that's being given attention to, the graphics, the sound are also given importance. So let's move on to the next part. So advice regarding game development. So first, if tutorials get in the way of game flow, at least informs the controls in a way or another. So a main approach to this is graphical representation of controls, which quite a lot of games do use, or a separate menu which just say the controls. Then next, please check for games for issues using other people's machines and controllers. What's work with your equipment doesn't mean they work with others. And if you have no one to compose music for your game, just grab whatever assets that you have, because some of the game entries lack any sound whatsoever, which pretty much makes the experience kind of dull. So next up, please respond to feedback. Sometimes I do some bug reports by using the developer contact form, but there's no answer. I don't know why. And then I need to seek, so please seek content related to the game submitted, though I have to admit that chances are you are going to found my channel, so I'm not sure if this is it is a valid strategy, but I'm not sure how useful this would be. But at least if I stream your game and then I found some glitches, maybe you could discover it that way. And finally, go and play other game entries so you can learn what's good and bad regarding them. So now, and my advice for the game developers wants to entering GC Koushien 2024. So first, decide right in the beginning whether to allow commentary or game downloads or not, because these changes can make people upset. Next up, assign one person with X account, which if the person is fluent in English, the better, to manage communications. Sometimes if the developer contact form doesn't reach just you, then well, you need alternate means of communication, and currently X is the best. Learn English or get a machine translation service, because I'm going to be real clear here. It's not just me, the only foreigner who is interested in this competition. People have been slowly watching over, especially I think I expect there will be significant increase as more and more game entries of GC Koushien ended up being sold in Steam. The latest one being Haga Legacy, which took second place in the overall category back in 2022. And of course and the most anticipated title would be Death the Guitar, which is set to should be released within this year. In fact, the developer actually found Marvelous as the publisher, so I think this is definitely a good news. So yeah, perhaps you will need to connect with the rest of the world. So have learning English or getting machine translation would definitely help. So next up, do not mess with the download link at least until the award ceremony ends, and keep it permanently if possible, because this concerns more about, how should I put it, okay, so it would be annoying to the visitors to Minano Game Parade if the game entry couldn't be accessed despite being listed as playable. This actually has happened. I will not name names, but this is actually annoying. And also, the game entries shape the history of GC Koushien, and to remove the download link hurts that, especially when you consider that retro gaming has been popular and the game entries of today will be retro games of like 30 to 40 years from now, and it would be a great loss to future gamers if they cannot be played anytime after the content test ends. But of course, if you want to forget about that part of your life, I will respect that decision to remove the download link. And so my next advice is provide livestream thumbnails and game introduction PDF. This is more of just an increased accessibility. You don't really have to do it, but it is nice if you do that, because I don't need to download the introduction PDF separately. And yeah, the convenience is good, but it doesn't hurt much if I don't have those. So my next set of advice, okay, name your zip files properly. So there's too many games with the default folder name, and I don't know which it is which when I downloaded a lot of them. And then decide what to do with the finished game. Of course, most of the time you are likely to just leave it as it is, but it is easier to say maybe brush up the game or trying to publish the game yourselves right after the contest ends, rather than maybe making that decision years later when it would be easier if you are solo dev, but you are making the game with your teammates and all that. When they separated, then the decision would be harder to make. And next up, account for players who don't understand Japanese language. So yeah, making your games accessible to foreigners would be always a nice measure, and maybe could lead to something even more. And the playtime is from start to finish, not one level. Again, there are a few cases of the game's length is far longer than what is listed in the Minano Game Parade website. Again, I will not name names, but this annoys the heck out of me. And surely and it also counts as misleading the judges, which definitely not something that you want to do. So, and in case that you want to cater towards overseas gamers, there are additional considerations. So one, you have to realize that the world is washing over you, so be careful of what you post online or what are the things you do with your game. Just be mindful. And next up is be aware of cultural sensitivities of what you depict in your game, and also the people who speak the language that you plan to translate into, because if you offend them, they won't buy your game. And finally, accessibility. Having accessibility options for disabled players would benefit everyone. And so I guess on the advice parts, that's it. The rest are pretty much extra content before my announcement regarding what's going to happen starting this weekend. Yeah, they are not available in the document because that's not what the document is about. So now, so first, why I am interested in GC Koushien. So first of all, and I'm talking about from the present perspective, not back when I started. So first, the future of Japanese indie gaming scene is pretty much here, though, and it does make sense considering that I have seen one tweet which says that an entrant actually got a job with a gaming company or such, and some of those developers would move on to indie productions, and they, as I mentioned earlier, some of the game entries have been released as Japanese indie games, so it's something that I am interested in looking into. And also there's some influence from the Japanese freeway gaming scene. In fact, there are a few game entries from GC Koushien which is available in freeway gaming sites, and the most notable would be Entrance Exam by Heso Rider, and I'm not sure if he's going to do this again this year. And of course, these games are free, so for gamers with budgetary issues like me, these games are definitely good alternatives, but don't expect epic works like whatever AAA games which you have on your console. And lastly, I want to prove that gaming transcends language barriers and national borders. You see, I have been playing Japanese freeway games since 2009 in Japanese. At that, most of them are not translated, and I want to show the world that people like me exist, and not just some, how should I put it, the other kinds of people who are interested in untranslated Japanese games falls either to retro gamers with old Japanese games which didn't get translated, and the other kind, well, I can't say it because it's going to get me a community strike. So the category is the ones like me who just want to explore the unknown. So how did I prepare for the GC Koushien 2023 Game Spotlight in English live streams? So I was paying attention to the news on when the game entries will be start updated, and for that purpose I have prepared a Google Sheets file to keep tracks games which is available for streaming. In fact, I do have and there's one private copy to track the ones that I have streamed and had not. The one is a public one which lists all the game entries which are playable in GC Koushien 2023. The same has been made available for year 2024, but I had announced it sometime earlier, but once I started streaming game entries of GC Koushien 2024, I will share the link once again. And as for which games which I chose to stream, so first of all, no horror games. I have already learned this the hard way when I was streaming Boshoku no Machi, the first game which has some horror elements, and I physically couldn't stand it. At least the second game is, well, more like a horror team adventure game than an actual horror game, which I survived, and I don't want to repeat that. As for adventure and visual novels, they are evaluated on a case-by-case basis, because when it comes to these kinds of games, language barrier can be an issue. If it is impenetrable, then I have to give up. And of course, it's a wider selection compared to 2022. This is partially because I do started a bit early, and another thing is I have extended the coverage a lot, and I should be able to do the same for GC Koushien 2024 as well. And of course, if you have noticed, I do localize the Japanese game titles into English because it is necessary to target my target audience, which is English speaking players. And of course, I will use the games provided by the developer. If that's not the case, then I will only localize the game title. So generally speaking, localizing the title is always better than straight translation most of the time. So I'll show you some examples which you can see on the screen right now. So in the case of the last one, this has to be done because there's already a game called Cat is Liquid, so I must use an alternative game title for that. As for the rest, it's just modification to fit better with what the game actually is. So here we go, the plans of GC Koushien 2024 and beyond. So the live stream series will be renamed to Milano Game Parade Showcase for whatever year it is in. So for this year it will be Milano Game Parade Showcase 2024, and it will start after GC Koushien 2023 retrospective, which starts on this weekend, has been completed. So there are 12 game titles. They will be announced over the weekend. I think it will take me about 2 to 3 weeks to complete. It will depend on how things go, and of course I want to finish this part as soon as possible, because there has been quite a lot of game entries of GC Koushien 2024 already. I do hope to start around July, but if I can make it quick, maybe late June. So that's it for my presentation, and yeah, I hope you guys can get ready for Milano Game Parade Showcase 2024. There are a lot of exciting game entries to be discovered, and hopefully I can finally find a game that is showing the new high standard for the competition. So yeah, that's it for this stream. My next stream will be on tomorrow, where I'm going to play Chuntel on 2110 UTC plus 8. That's 2210 Japan time. It is part of my coverage of Young Leaves contest, which is another Japanese freeway game contest. Hopefully it will go smooth. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.